What's up everybody, it's Jess. I'm back in front of my bookshelf, which means we're going to be doing another video on fanfiction. Because I don't shut up about fanfiction. And today, as you can guess by the title, we're going to be discussing Mary Sue's. So why are we discussing Mary Sue's? Are we going to be ragging on them? Actually, no. I genuinely believe that Mary Sue's are awesome. So why are we going to be talking about Mary Sue's? Nobody wants to write a Mary Sue. People want to have good original characters that make impacts on people. And my answer to that is, you gotta start somewhere. So basically, I have 3 rules of thumb that we're going to be going over when you're writing your Mary Sue's. And yes, I do encourage you to post them. Because, surprisingly, fanfiction is actually a very accepting community, and they probably won't care as much as you think they will about your Mary Sue's. And there'll be something for you to look back on later in your life and be like, why did I do this to myself? Why did I choose this path? Why am I here? Who decided this was a good idea? Why was I like this? Now, Mary Sue's to me are a very important step in your fanfiction journey. Specifically, the first step. Everyone has written a Mary Sue. And you want to know how I know that everyone has written a Mary Sue? Because it's the first thing everyone does. They put themselves into that world and see how they would react. Bingo, you got your Mary Sue. Mary Sue is essentially, before it was actually a thing, is, you know, putting yourself into that situation. Self-inserting characters are typically Mary Sue's. Now, the cool thing about Mary Sue's is that they're more than that. They're so much more than that. And Mary Sue's are a really good place for people to start, because it's what I like to call getting the gook out, which we'll have a whole video on that because I got a lot to say about that. But Mary Sue's are an important part of getting started on your fanfiction journey. You have to start somewhere. And starting somewhere, cliched, super overpowered, makes sense to me. So getting started on your fanfiction path, I think it's essential to write Mary Sue's. Good Mary Sue's, bad Mary Sue's that make you want to explode, Mary Sue's that kind of confuse you, but alright, you keep on keeping on, you know what I mean? Mary Sue's are an essential part of your fanfiction journey, and I think it's time we embrace that. We know they're not good. We're aware. We are so aware. And yet they're fun. That's the whole point. I think they're an essential part of your fanfiction journey. Yes, of course we can go back and look at them and cringe and think, oh my god, why? Why did I do this to myself? But they're important, they're essential, and they're honestly one of the most fun parts. How would I interact with these characters? How would I react in this situation? It's a part of human nature to insert ourselves, so why not start there? I have a confession to make. Hello, hi, I have a confession to make. My first fanfiction was all Mary Sue's. Until I realized I'm really bad at making my own characters, so I should stop that. And I should write characters that already exist, already have these preset flaws and interesting things about them, and that made it easier for me to jump in. But I couldn't have gotten to that point unless I had written Mary Sue's that I realized were not that great. Of course, that is your growth part of this saga. The second part is interest. How are you going to find an interesting way to present this character, to essentially present yourself? Because let's be real, even if your Mary Sue isn't you, it's you, in reality. But you're presenting yourself. How would you write yourself? I always wrote myself as blonde for some reason. I'm not blonde, sort of. In the sunlight I am. But I'm not blonde. I would always write myself as blonde. How do you present yourself in your fanfiction? I think that's a very essential step, because the moment that you figure out how you present yourself, you can present other characters as well, and make it more interesting. Now, this is going to be sacrilegious of me, and I understand that. But I 100%, absolutely recommend you write fanfiction for Harry Potter, and you make a Mary Sue. Because it's easy, because it's this preset established world that's going to give you a chance to grow and establish yourself as a writer. That was my first fanfiction, technically. But even more technically, and this is getting really back in the day, way back in the day, I was on this site called Go2Quiz, back in the early 2010s I must have been, because I was in middle school. Back in the early 2010s, I got on this website called Go2Quiz, and there were quizzes about dating the Hogwarts kids, the guys and girls. There were girls, but I did the guys because I'm thirsty. I'm thirsty for Harry. Anyway. Ooh, I'm choosing to be this person. Anyway. And there were quizzes where you could date the Hogwarts gang. All of the guys, even the ones that didn't matter, you could date them. And you would take this quiz that was essentially a story. And that's how I got into fanfiction. Self-insert fanfiction is okay. There's a good way to write it. We'll get to that later because self-insert fanfiction. But there is a good way to introduce yourself into fanfiction with yourself as the main character. Self-insert doesn't necessarily negate that fanfiction. It could be bad. It probably is bad, but that doesn't mean you don't like it. That doesn't mean it's not something that interests you. That doesn't mean that it's not good. It's just as good and valid as any other kind of fanfiction. It just gets ragged on way more than anything else. Besides all the sexy time fanfics, which we'll get to later. Last thing I would like to part with you on this topic of Mary Sue's is that we can use it as a teachable moment. And obviously this is kind of in the growth section of this video, but teachable moments I think are very important to have, especially when you're starting out with fanfiction. You need to have those teachable moments so that you can A, teach yourself, B, teach others, educate others, and C, kind of discover what you're doing here. Do I want to be a writer? Do I want to do this for the rest of my life? Am I just using this to advance my skill set? Am I using this for, what am I using this for? And I think that's really important. Using fanfiction as a transitional skill in order to figure out who you are and what you want. And I really think that's something I would love to drive home with you, is that fanfiction is teachable. And fanfiction is something we can give to others, and it's a gift. It really is. People will argue with me on this, but writing fanfiction is no different than writing a story. It's no different than writing a history book. It's no different than writing a historical fiction. You are just taking new characters, putting them into a situation, and seeing what happens. That is what fanfiction is, and if it's with a Mary Sue, it's with a Mary Sue. And we will get to the point where we don't write Mary Sues. But I think we should be allowed that learning curve of deciding, yeah, I'm gonna put myself in this, and yeah, this character isn't great, but they're fun. And we are allowed to try and experiment with new kinds of things. And if fanfiction is your thing, go for it. Yes, people will make fun of you, and yes, you'll make fun of yourself, but you're only gonna make fun of yourself if you tried something new. And isn't that what life is all about? Trying new things and trying to be cool? I mean, I'm on YouTube, for God's sake. Why am I on YouTube talking about fanfiction? I would have never been on this journey if I'd never written fanfiction. If I'd never written that terrible, terrible fanfiction. Oh, God. I can't believe I'm going to admit this. I am a mermaid person. That's a good way to start the story, Jess. You're a mermaid person. I love mermaids. Ariel's my favorite Disney princess. Always, always love mermaids. And I did a thing. I did a thing back in the day where I wrote a Hunger Games fanfiction with a siren because I thought sirens were the badass version of mermaids. Which, I mean, that's true. But it was the worst fanfiction I've ever written. Genuinely. Genuinely, it's awful. But it was fun. I would sit there and I would write hundreds of thousands of words. Well, maybe not hundreds of thousands. I wasn't that literate back then. But like thousands upon thousands of words about this fan fiction that wasn't good, but it was fun. And I learned so much about the English language, about myself, about the world that I was writing for. I learned so much from that cringe-worthy moment. So if you have inspiration for something, get it down on paper. Don't be ashamed of it. People make fun of Mary Sue's because they're funny. And it's awesome, okay? I like to say that Mary Sue's are the Fast and Furious of the fanfiction world. Everyone knows they're ridiculous, but they're fun, they're enjoyable, and they're funny to watch. I think that we really have taken Mary Sue's and said that this is unacceptable. And it's, to me, very acceptable. I think we can learn so much more from fanfiction than we give it credit for. I think we can learn so much more from Mary Sue's than we give it credit for. And again, if you can't see it for anything else, think of it as just stupid, mindless fun. Like reality TV. Mary Sue's are the reality TV of fanfiction. They're there for a reason, and they're fun. But we want to get to the point where we have our own established characters, great OCs that are just honestly novel-worthy. Classic novel-worthy. And we will get there. Next week we're going to be talking about how to write original characters that aren't Mary Sue's so that we can jump to that next step once we're done having our stupid little fun with our Mary Sue's. But that's all I have for you guys today. I can't wait to see you next week. I'm back on the train, the YouTube train. Hopefully, we'll see. No promises. But I can't wait. I'll see you all next week. Have a great day. Bye! I don't see why we can't be doing this. Hello. Apparently, that's there.